A lot of the information you see about muscle building and fat loss is aimed at people who've been training for years and have unlimited time to work out. But I know there are busy professionals who aren't bodybuilders or athletes who want to lose fat and build muscle. That's the most common request I get from my clients over 40. So I'm going to show you the system I've been using with my clients to help them get lean at any age. Hi, I'm Ivana, and I've been a fat loss coach for over 25 years and a certified strength and conditioning specialist since 2008. I usually tell my clients to focus on body recomposition because that's what they want: less fat and more muscle, or at least enough muscle to get some definition. And I'll use something called the POWER framework to help you get it. It's 5 science-backed principles that support your physical and mental health for muscle building and fat loss. I've put this all together in the Lean and Strong 40 Plus plan, which you can get for free at the link in the description. I'm going to take you through it now so you know how to use it effectively for yourself. And I've actually got it here with me. So this is what it looks like. You can also print this off if you really want to, but we're going to go through some of the important exercises here so you know how to get the results that you want. When it comes to fat loss, you need to prioritize nutrition. Because you want to create a moderate calorie deficit to lose fat without draining your energy or performance in the gym. Unless you have a couple of hours every day to exercise, and I'm pretty sure you don't, it's very hard to burn off as many calories as you need with exercise alone. And I also want you to remember that your primary exercise for gaining muscle is strength training. So it's less about calorie burning and more about building this bigger metabolic engine. And even though a calorie deficit is what you need to lose fat, I don't want you to get into that mental battle of eating, burning. This creates a bad relationship with food, and it's not very effective anyway. Just as an example, the average donut has about 300 calories. If you weigh, let's say, 170 pounds, you'll need to walk for about an hour at a moderate to brisk 3.5 mile per hour pace to burn off those calories. And I'm not even saying you shouldn't have donuts or cookies or chocolate or French fries or whatever treat you prefer in small doses. Believe it or not, I encourage you to keep them in your nutrition plan, but have them less frequently and in smaller quantities. Plan treats rather than going off the rails once in a while. Think about your portion size. You definitely want to share a very large cookie with a friend, or eat a small amount now and leave the rest for tomorrow or the next day, because that first bite is the sweetest. The first taste is the most satisfying. That first sliver of this delicious Ferrero Rocher cheesecake was the best. There are diminishing returns as you eat more and more of the same food, no matter how delicious it is. So you want to eat slowly, pay attention more, stop when you're starting to feel satisfied. Mindful eating goes a long way to keeping your calories under control naturally. So what do you actually eat? I want you to create what I call the food freedom list. You'll put together a collection of foods based on the questions that are in here. Number 1, what are your 5 favorite staple foods you could eat regularly? So these are healthy options you could happily eat all the time. I personally eat potatoes or sweet potatoes nearly every day because I love them. And potatoes have one of the highest levels of satiety of any food. If it keeps you full, your appetite stays under control, and you eat fewer calories overall. I also love avocados and macadamia nuts, both of which are calorie dense. I keep the servings relatively small, but for me it's not for fat loss, but because of the fiber. I can't have too much of that all at once because of my digestion. I also love salmon. I'll often have a nice fillet if we go out to dinner, and lately I've even started to have a can or two of wild sockeye salmon every week. And olives are another staple for me. Number 2, what are your 5 favorite lean protein sources? Salmon isn't that lean because it's higher in fat and calories. So for lean protein sources, Greek yogurt, that's usually what I have in the morning. Cottage cheese, which I put on potatoes or sweet potatoes. Chicken breast, of course. Egg whites, extra lean turkey breast. I usually have that as part of some kind of nacho-like meal. Number 3, what 5 vegetables do you genuinely enjoy and want to eat more often? I enjoy asparagus, sugar snap peas, broccoli, zucchini, sprouts, alfalfa or bean sprouts. All of those are kind of refreshing to me. Number 4, what 5 fruits do you genuinely enjoy and want to eat more often? Blueberries, I have those practically every morning with my Greek yogurt. Raspberries, watermelon when it's in season. Strawberries are good, but only when they're fresh in the summer. I really like mango, but it's hard to get it at the right ripeness sometimes. When they're not available in the winter, I sometimes have frozen mango. What are your 5 favorite treat foods that feel truly worth it? So you're thinking chips or donuts, wine, beer, fries. For me, it's milk chocolate, cheesecake, fresh soft baked chocolate chip cookies, ice cream, generally Ben & Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough or half baked, or the Tonight dough, Au Canada for Canada. All of those are truly worth it, and I always have those in small servings. What 5 treat foods could you easily live without? What doesn't actually satisfy you or isn't really worth the calories to you? Now, I don't eat French fries or potato chips. I have GERD, that's acid reflux issues. So fried and really greasy food doesn't feel good for my stomach. I'll sometimes make an exception for fried plantain if I'm on a vacation in the Caribbean because that's so good. That's also why I don't do donuts. I almost never have pizza unless it's one of those fancy pizzas you cut with a fork and knife, but then I have to watch out for the garlic because that also doesn't agree with me. I also don't eat any red meat, so not hot dogs or hamburgers. Red meat just doesn't really agree with me, and I never really liked it. Which foods or habits tend to throw you off track? So think of your trigger foods. Maybe it's social settings. For a lot of people, late night snacks. Evenings have always been harder for me. That's a really common problem. Most of my clients work on strategies to avoid eating after dinner. I brush my teeth and do a fluoride rinse after dinner so that it wouldn't taste good if I tried to eat anything. But now I'm so used to it that I just don't really eat after dinner. Some of my clients have a fruity herbal tea as a nighttime ritual, a small protein bar or yogurt with fruit as a post-dinner routine to break the habit of mindless snacking in the evening. A lot of people put on extra calories that way. I don't really have trigger foods anymore because I spent years working through those issues with restricting certain foods and using food for emotional support. That Ben & Jerry's ice cream I mentioned, in the past, I wouldn't have been able to have a small bowl without going back and finishing the entire tub, and sometimes 2 tubs. For the record, 1 tub is about 1,220 calories. 2 tubs is 2,440 calories. That's more calories than I need for a day. Now I can have a small bowl and leave it. To me, that's really food freedom, and that's what I want you to achieve too, eventually. It does take time. Remember that what you eat affects everything: muscle building, fat burn, energy levels, recovery, and even sleep. Take care of the physiological, and the psychological becomes easier. What do I mean by that? It starts with planning satisfying meals that keep you full. That makes it easier to eat less naturally. Then you're less likely to give in to your habits and cravings, most of which are psychological. So focus each meal around protein for a total of 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, or 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day. This applies to active adults who want to build muscle and lose fat, like you. Remember that it's a range, and 0.7 grams per pound can be plenty for you. I usually keep my clients on the lower end if they weigh 180 to 200 pounds. It's just so much protein to eat. Or if they're not already used to eating very much protein, it can be a big jump. So you want to do this gradually. I'll show you how I do it so you can get an idea. This is probably the closest you'll get to a what I eat in a day video, which a lot of people have been asking for. So pay attention. I weigh around 135 pounds at 5'10", and I usually get 120-ish grams of protein divided into 3 meals. So that means about 40 grams of protein per meal. Sometimes a whey protein isolate shake, just plain with water after my workouts, but not always. If I go back to the food freedom list that I just created, you'll understand what I'm doing and how you can do this for yourself. I pick one of my lean proteins for breakfast. I like Greek yogurt. Then I pick a fruit. Most often it's blueberries, but sometimes I'll have raspberries too. I top it with some nuts, often macadamia nuts, which I mentioned are my favorite, but sometimes almonds, cashews, pistachios, and even sunflower seeds. For lunch, I might have canned salmon, one of my favorite proteins, or just cottage cheese because I'm usually also having potatoes or sweet potatoes. I also add a couple of vegetables, maybe sprouts or something left over from the night before, and almost always olives because I love those. For dinner, my husband usually does the cooking, and we have a very simple system. Either lean ground turkey mixed with black beans, or chicken breast with vegetables, and sweet potatoes or potatoes, sometimes noodles, and occasionally an omelet with a couple of eggs and extra egg whites for that extra protein with mushrooms. And then potatoes, and usually sweet potatoes as well. Protein keeps you fuller for longer, and you'll be less likely to develop cravings later on. It also preserves your muscle mass, which is essential if you're over 40. To maximize your muscle building, it's best to distribute your protein in at least 3 meals. It just means you're keeping a consistent supply of protein for muscle protein synthesis. If you're aiming for 160 grams of protein per day, you can have 40 grams of protein per meal for 4 meals, and you're set. It's really hard to get enough protein in just 2 meals a day unless you're a small person. And managing your appetite is a key part of fat loss because you need to keep those calories under control. Ghrelin is a hormone produced in your stomach and pancreas that's associated with stimulating hunger. So if ghrelin levels are high, you turn into a gremlin. Protein is the nutrient that's best for lowering your ghrelin levels. Not getting enough sleep increases your ghrelin levels. So be mindful of that if sleep is an issue for you. But sometimes when you just focus on protein, you still won't lose fat. You don't want to be getting most of your protein from ribeye steaks, fatty cheeses like brie, or chicken wings. Not that you can't eat those things, but less frequently and again, smaller servings. Because while those things are protein sources, they're also quite high in fat and calories. Since fat is 9 calories per gram compared to carbs and protein at 4 calories per gram, it adds up more quickly. Because yes, you want the protein, but you also need to reduce your calories slightly to get yourself into a calorie deficit to lose fat. Fiber can also help. Because most fiber isn't absorbed, those calories pass through. Insoluble fiber from vegetables and wheat bran acts as a physical barrier and can trap some of that fat and carbs, so a small part of those calories pass through unabsorbed as well. Soluble fiber, the kind you find in oats, legumes, psyllium, chia seeds, barley, and apples, forms this gel-like substance in the gut that slows digestion and absorption of nutrients and slightly reduces the total absorption of those things, particularly of the fat. This is one of the ways that regularly taking psyllium helps reduce your cholesterol levels. Definitely something that you want to keep an eye on after 40. LDL levels are now causally linked to cardiovascular risk. Most fiber sources are low in calorie density, so they fill you up without many calories. So now you might be wondering, if you eat like that, does it mean that you don't have to count calories? Maybe. I've seen lots of people lose fat just by putting the focus on lean protein and foods with fiber, primarily vegetables and fruit. Having more nutrient-dense, low-calorie density foods and fewer ultra-processed foods is certainly a great start. For most people, that will naturally put them into a calorie deficit without counting calories. But the leaner you are, the more specific you need to be to go further. So I do recommend that most of my clients track their calories and macros for at least 3 weeks. Some people like to do it long term, and that's fine. I've only really done it for fitness competitions and a couple of years ago when I tracked calories for 100 days for a video. Now I just have my system for eating, part of which I just shared, and that keeps me where I want to be without restriction, and quite frankly, it feels easy for me. I do encourage most of my clients to wean themselves off calorie tracking by building their own meal plans that contain the foods they love to eat. Now, I've spent a lot of time on nutrition because it's usually a weakness for almost everyone I've worked with. It certainly was for me. But even if you've got your calories in check, you still want to pay attention to exercise. And for muscle, it's all about progressive resistance training. It's actually way more important to get that muscle stimulus than to eat protein. You can't just force feed yourself protein and grow muscle. You need to put in the work consistently at the gym or at home to build muscle. For me, strength training over 40 isn't optional if you want to stay lean as you get older. Why? Because maintaining your lean muscle mass as you age will keep your metabolic rate as high as it can be. Muscle burns slightly more calories than fat all the time. More muscle means more calorie burn. Muscle also supports a healthy metabolism, increases insulin sensitivity, which goes down with age, improves your joint integrity, and it builds bone density. Just jumping from random exercise to random exercise won't do it. Use a structured resistance training program to overload with purpose. Research shows that even adults in their 70s and 80s can build significant lean mass with the right training plan. In your 40s and 50s, you're in the perfect window to build and protect muscle against bigger losses later on. 2 strength training sessions a week is the minimum health recommendation, but if you're serious about building muscle and feeling great after 40, then 3 to 4 workouts a week is a bit better. Full body workouts are a great option, especially if you're training alternating days like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's what I'm doing at the moment. I've switched to a full body workout that way. But there are other ways to split things up that also work. The standard push, pull, legs split can work, but it isn't always ideal because you'll probably do better hitting your major muscle groups twice per week. The programs I put together for my clients do that, generally with only 3 workouts per week. You want to train each major muscle group twice a week. So there are 6 of them: legs, chest, shoulders, back, arms, and then core and abs. Almost everyone I've coached in over 25 years has wanted to lose some belly fat and have a more defined midsection. The vast majority of that is going to come from your diet and your overall activity, but training your abs can build them up a tiny bit and give you core support in your daily life. When we look at the upper body choices, chest, shoulders, arms, back, there's overlap in the muscle groups you're using. If you're doing a bench press, for instance, we mainly think of this as a chest exercise, but it's working your arms too, primarily your triceps. With compound exercises, where you're using more than one muscle group and involving more than one joint, like lat pull downs, chin ups, deadlifts, chest presses, and seated rows, you get more muscle involved all at once. So bench press works your chest, anterior, front shoulders, and arms. A deadlift works your glutes, hamstrings, back, core, and your forearms too for grip. Try to focus on compound movements. This is different from isolation exercises like biceps curls, cable triceps extensions, or a lying hamstring curl. Not that there's anything wrong with those. I've actually been doing a lot more of them to work around a shoulder injury, and I'm still getting great results. Keep your workouts focused. Your weight training sessions don't need to be long. 25 to 40 minutes of actual weight training with maybe 5 minutes at the beginning to do some warming up and mobility, and 5 to 10 minutes at the end to do some more mobility and some stretching is great. Unless you're competing in bodybuilding or powerlifting, you don't need more than that consistently to get amazing results. The reason most people spend so much time in the gym is that they're resting for long periods of time. They're walking around and chatting or scrolling their phone, checking work emails when they should have started their next set. Try to turn off the distractions when you're working out. Multitasking just hurts your productivity in the gym. Generally, you'll want to keep your rest between sets no more than about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes or so if you're specifically working on strength in that session, but you do want some rest. If you don't leave enough time between sets, you won't be able to lift as heavy a weight or do as many reps. Use progressive overload. And you probably think about progressive overload as lifting heavier weights, adding weight to the bar. And yes, that can certainly be part of it. But as you get more experience with weight training, it's not always easy to add more weight to the bar or use a heavier dumbbell. So what else can you do? You can increase the reps that you're doing or slow the movement down and increase the time under tension. You can also increase your volume, the amount of work in sets and reps you're doing over the course of the week. You can also increase your workout density by shortening the rest period sometimes. Your body adapts over time. to any stimulus. So you do need to eventually change your program. That doesn't mean every session or even every month. Usually 6 to 8 weeks is a good time to make a change. That way your body has time to get better at the exercise you've been doing and you don't get too bored. Walk and move daily. While strength training creates the main stimulus for muscle, most of your daily calorie burn actually comes from movement outside the gym. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis is the small movements that you do throughout the day. Strictly speaking, it's really just fidgeting and the rocking that many people do more naturally. But we can all increase our calorie burn for fat loss by moving around whenever we can. Walking around your home, cleaning, folding the endless pile of laundry that always seems to be there. A lot of people really get into counting their steps. I've tried to do it more often now too. Most of the benefits in terms of health risks and longevity seem to max out around 8,000 steps per day. 10,000 steps came from a marketing campaign in Japan in the 1960s. But if you're trying to lose fat, it certainly won't hurt, and 10,000 is a nice round number. And as another bonus for fat loss, if you feel like you're constantly hungry in a deficit, and that's common, a short walk can help reduce your hunger and manage your cravings. Walking is low impact and it doesn't add to the training stress to your body. It can actually help you recover from your weight training sessions. Think of it like oiling the hinges on a door. Regular movement keeps everything gliding smoothly. In your 40s, you may have noticed more pain and stiffness in your joints. Some of that is the natural wear and tear that comes with age. But I say it's better to wear out than rust out. Movement and strengthening exercises improve the quality of your tendons, ligaments, and joints. You just need to make small adjustments for any discomfort that you're having. If you get stiff and sore from sitting and staring at a screen for hours, and who doesn't, then getting up every 25 to 30 minutes is a good idea. Oh yeah, we should be doing that. If you pair that with another healthy habit like drinking water, then you'll move forward even faster. A treadmill desk might be a good investment for your office. I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. I'm definitely considering it at some point. But it's not just your body that needs to move. If you want lasting fat loss, your mindset has to change too. That's why E is establish new patterns. This is what makes the biggest difference for long-term success. To lose fat and keep it off, you need to let go of your old way of thinking. Carbs are bad. Fat is bad. A tiny bit of junk food is going to make me lose all my progress. I'm too old. I'm not athletic. I have to be perfect to succeed with fat loss. Reframe your thinking with what I call the lean mindset method, based on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. How it works is, first, you identify your thinking traps, which are automatic thoughts that come and go without intention. These are things you say to yourself repeatedly that don't get you to your goals or make you feel bad about yourself. So things like, I ate a cookie, so my whole diet is ruined. I might as well eat whatever I want tomorrow. One treat won't undo all your progress. So let go of any guilt you're feeling. It doesn't help. You can enjoy a cookie and still stay on track with your fat loss goals. I missed one workout this week. I'm going to lose my muscle and start gaining fat. Missing one workout is not going to undo your progress. Muscle growth and fat loss is a long-term process. Over time, you turn all those thoughts that aren't helping you around. Most of my clients have struggled with that all or nothing mindset and have been on that fat loss roller coaster dozens of times. They're successful, driven people who expect a lot from themselves, and they beat themselves up, often very hard, about every little slip. And that only makes things worse. So instead of thinking, I've ruined my diet, I might as well just give up and eat more and just skip the gym, you say to yourself, I ate a bit more than I planned, but it's also just one meal and I can move on with the next meal. Until you change the way you talk to yourself and the habits that have been ingrained for years, maybe decades, you'll keep fighting with those last 10 to 20, 30, 40 pounds over and over and over again. I did. So why not just eat clean or eat real food like we keep getting told, because avoiding the foods you love isn't sustainable. Sure, you probably need to eat fewer ultra processed foods than you are, in smaller amounts and less often, but trying to ban them altogether isn't going to work for the long term. That's why many fitness competitors and bodybuilders often gain a lot of weight when they're not competing. After being deprived for months at a time, they can't control themselves around those treat foods. I did that myself throughout my 20s. I could always get leaner if I just cut out chocolate and cookies and ice cream completely and upped my hours in the gym. I'm a pretty disciplined person. I was an athlete for a long time, so I could manage it for weeks, maybe a couple of months. But eventually I'd give in and end up binging on those foods that I'd been avoiding. Then I felt bad about myself and ate some more to comfort myself. When I finally decided that all foods could be part of my plan, it actually took away a lot of those cravings. Before, I could never have any chocolate or ice cream in the house because I would eat it all and then go to the store to buy more. But now my kitchen has lots of sweet treats, including chocolate on the shelves and usually ice cream in the fridge. And I can leave it for long periods or just have one and put the rest away, which totally blows my mind whenever I think about it. I'd like you to get to that point too, because real progress isn't about restriction or pushing harder all the time. It's about creating balance. And that includes getting enough rest. The final step of the power framework is recover sufficiently. If you're not recovering properly, you're not building muscle, burning fat, or performing at your best. Muscle grows when you're resting, not when you're actually training it. And if you're tired, we know what that means for your ability to prepare and eat healthy meals. You probably prefer plunking down on the couch with some takeout food and a couple of episodes of Bridgerton or Reacher. I'm the kind of girl who likes both. After 40, our ability to recover from exercise might go down slightly. I don't think this is as big a deal as many people say. I think it's just that a lot of people in their 40s and 50s are overworked in so many ways that we just, like, everything is way up here. And I think probably if you're managing everything else in your life well and you have the time, then you could be doing 6 days a week of workouts and you'd still be fine. And then on the other day, you're just staying active and walking and moving around. Because I actually think that's better. Rather than worrying so much about exercising too much, we need to worry about not exercising enough, because far more people are not exercising enough. Less than a quarter of people are meeting the really quite easy health guidelines, which is 2 days of resistance training a week and 150 minutes of cardio. But if things are just crazy for you, you'll probably notice that your recovery from exercise goes down. You might need more time between workouts and more sleep. Now, the problem is that our sleep quality can go down because our production of melatonin is reduced. That's the hormone that manages our sleep-wake cycle. Sleep can get a bit more fragmented and with lighter sleep and sometimes early waking. Not only that, but the decline in sex hormones as we age affects our sleep too. The reduction in testosterone levels in men is slight and gradual, but fluctuating levels of estrogen and progesterone in women can really impact our sleep. So why does sleep matter for fat loss? Can't you just survive on 5 hours and push through it with coffee the next day? Sure, but I think you know how that goes eventually. You get tired and frazzled and you just don't have the focus or energy to exercise or plan sensible meals. You may get into a stress recovery imbalance. And when you don't sleep enough, your body increases ghrelin, your hunger hormone, and decreases leptin, your fullness hormone. So you'll have everything against you when it comes to fat loss. So try to get at least 7 hours a night and give yourself a solid sleep routine. Start winding down 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Dim the lights and turn off screens. I know this is a tough one, but if you're working on your laptop or scrolling on your phone until your head hits the pillow, then the melatonin release, which you just heard gets lower with age, is going to be further reduced. You may fall asleep, but you won't sleep as well. Then when you go to sleep, you want that room to be quiet cool, and as dark as you can possibly get it. Because rest and recovery helps make fat loss sustainable. And it's particularly important if you want to build lean muscle over 40. To do that safely and efficiently, watch this video here.